Hello, gringos y gringas, beaners and beanerettes. Welcome back to El Racist Latino. I am your host, Rafael Contreras. You can call me Rafa, I think that's easier. And I have something new, and my microphone works. Look, I fixed it. So I have something new. Please like, subscribe, and all that stuff. And yes, share with your friends. That's also quite important. And share with your friends, talk about it if you like the stream. Also, please, I have something else new. Also, please comment if you have any news that are more updated than mine, or some information that you know that I got wrong. Please comment below, let me know. Send me the source, very important. I do not trust anybody's word. I can get the tip and then research it, but I will not change my mind until real evidence is presented. Never, never. So, cool. Today we are gonna talk about Venezuela, as we said yesterday, but before, I wanna show a couple of updates that we have. I forgot to erase this. We don't need this. So, before, I want to show some new evidence from the Bondi Beach terror attack. We spoke about that yesterday, so it's just a quick 5-minute update. Max Blumenthal, he posted this, which is a statement from the President of Australia, President Albanese, saying that these crimes were being perpetrated by people who do not have a particular issue, aren't motivated by an ideology, but are paid actors. Now, it's unclear who or where the payments are coming from. Then it says here that they are considering cryptocurrencies. So, one point for the conspiracy theorists that think there's more than meet the eye here and something doesn't smell good. If the president is saying it, it's not like a unbiased news source or an independent journalist or any journalist for that matter. It's the president. So yeah, that's some interesting updates. Now let's go back to yes. So let's talk about Venezuela. First, I wanna admit or say that I was born and raised in Venezuela, lived there until I was 25 before I left because of the political situation, because of the revolution or communism or whatever you want to call it. And we are gonna watch a video from Propaganda and Co. that shows the history from the 17th and gives us a new perspective on why the US wants or is interested in Venezuela in this war at all, and why they're willing to take the risk. I also listened to Colonel McGregor last night talking about it, saying that this is not gonna be so easy. So we'll speak about that also. If the US thinks this is gonna be an easy win, then evidence shows the contrary. Doesn't mean that it's most difficult war in the world. It's not Iran or North Korea, but it's not as easy as they think, and they are comparing it to Vietnam, to a Vietnam situation, which is pretty interesting. So we'll talk about that, and we will start by let me see, because I made notes also, so I won't forget anything. So we will start up talking about my personal experience. So when I was about, I grew up in Venezuela in the 90s. Everything was nice. We had a house, 2 cars, private school. Everything was nice. We're solid middle class family. And then Chavez got elected in 1999. I was 14 years old. So I didn't get to vote. And that's when all the revolution things started. And about 2 years after he got elected in 2001, there was a national strike. I remember that, for about 2 months, where the whole country was full stop. And during, like, way through Christmas, I remember driving with my father and my brother to the beach for New Year's, I think. And it was only us. There was no oil. No gasoline. had to make hours and hours, sometimes even days, line to get some gasoline, and gasoline was sold in the black market for, well, I mean, gasoline, maybe you don't know, for the people who don't know, gasoline is the cheapest liquid in Venezuela, and it's also the cheapest gas in the world. And there is laws in the constitution or something where they're not allowed to increase the price. The Europeans and Americans that go there paying so high prices, they're always super interested and happy about, oh my god, that must be cool to pay, I don't know, $2 for a full tank or whatever, three, four, maybe, let's say $5, $5 for a full tank. And I said, yeah, that part is great, but the problem is the people don't have money to buy the cars in the first place. So it's a very long story, all of the things. The Chavez came, this national strike happened, and then some years later, maybe 2005 or something, this personal experience, I did zero research, so for this part. So the government, Chavez, blocked the US dollar, so blocked the Venezuelan bolivar from being purchased internationally to reduce the inflation prices to the dollar. Apparently because of sanctions of the US, because of course the problem the US has is that Chavez wants to be nationalist, only about the country. They don't want to be subservient to the US or to the powers that be. They want to be independent and nationalize the oil, and all of the resources from Venezuela should go to the Venezuelan people. And that was his principle, which is understandable and I support if it would be practiced that way. The problem is that the resources don't go to the Venezuelan people, they go to the top 1%, and they are their billionaires while the rest of the people just starve or die from gang violence or many other reasons. So the theory sounds good, but they don't practice it that way. Chavez didn't, and Maduro also doesn't. And when that happened, the country started the decline. So yeah, you can blame the US for the sanctions, like, dude, at least come to the table. This is the problem. The problem with this kind of situations with Venezuela is that both parties are wrong. And when you speak with someone that supports Chavez, they blame the other side, but they don't admit what they do wrong. Yeah, everything you are saying against the other side is correct, but that doesn't mean that your side is also right. This is what neither side understands. It's like, dude, you are both wrong. This is not the way that you should lead a country, and just don't care if the people that live under you, that you're supposed to be the leader of, are starving or dying, or criminalities, and 20,000 people a year dying from violent reasons, like crazy numbers, and you're there in your palace. What's the pride in that, of saying, hey, I am the leader of an unhappy population? This is what I don't get, and keeping all the money, giving nothing to no one. It's just ridiculous. But on the American side, that's also not the way to do this. Not everything has to be by force or by threat or by do what we want or we fuck you up. We can sit down in the table and find some middle ground where we are both happy. Let's make business. Let's keep the guns holstered and make some business, bro. We can both win from this. But that's not the way anybody sees it. Everybody wants total control. Nobody wants to share not even 1% of the control. So when that happens, the devaluation went to the ground. My parents lost everything. My mom's pension is maybe $10 a month. The big house and 2 cars, they had to sell it in the worst timing possible, and they basically had to sold it for pennies. And we lost everything basically because of this revolution. We lost everything. My brother left, I left, my mom left, cousins, friends from school, everybody left. I have friends and family all over the world. That's a good thing. But the country is in ruin. The country is completely destroyed and useless for the moment. So that is my personal story, and obviously this is the main reason why I hate communism. and I do not support it. I don't want to use the word hate. That's just unnecessary, especially for a political theory. It's just not doesn't work. Communism doesn't work. Maybe in paper, even if you read Karl Marx and all the others, whatever, mostly Karl Marx, I guess. In paper, it you do see some things that okay, this wouldn't work, blah blah blah. But all in all, it's not. It's a nice fairy tale, Yeah, yeah, whatever. But in practice, it has never worked, and that's one of my arguments when I debate pro-communist people. It's like, give me one example, man. Give me one example. Who's doing better, North Korea or South Korea? Who's doing better, Dominican Republic or Cuba? Dominican Republic is not doing amazing. It's not the first world, but it's doing better than Cuba, isn't it? So who's doing better, Venezuela or Colombia? If we go to Africa, Uganda or Nigeria, like this, it just, Vietnam, before or after. I mean, I don't agree with the Vietnam War and the way that they did it, but now it's impossible to argue that Vietnam is doing much better for their own people than before. So there's some logical theoretical arguments, but there is no practical evidence that any of this works. So we have evidence that capitalism works, that free markets work, that abundance and business instead of aggression is the way. So yeah, let's go with that. Going back to the more current story, what's going on now with this drug cartel, narco terrorism situation? So it all started with in the Biden administration from 2021, 22, 23, when the borders were completely open. The jails, this gang called Tren de Aragua became very famous in the US. We actually did an episode before. Please go check it out on the history of Tren de Aragua and Cartel de Soles. And yeah, I mean, it's from a guy that it's a propagandist for the Venezuelan government. So of course they don't exist. So that you have to, of course, pull this side also back to this side. But El Tren de Aragua and Cartel de Soles are gangs that actually do exist. Especially Tren de Aragua before was more famous than Cartel de Soles, which is more famous now for the narco-terrorism. But the Tren de Aragua gang was from the year 2022 to 2023. From that time, they were terrorizing Colorado, the state of Colorado in the US, illegal immigrants that went through the border out of the Venezuelan prisons. And it became very famous, very unpopular. Venezuela became very unpopular really quickly for news of Aurora, Colorado, and other towns where the gangs would just take over complete apartment buildings and basically ask them for insurance. So if you don't pay us, we will fuck you up or whatever. So doing gang mafia shit. So yeah, horrible. This has been going on for a couple of years, and the perpetrators are posting free on TikTok and on YouTube, on Instagram. Hey, we are here. Nobody is against us. Blah blah. We're just chilling. Come over. This is free for all. Blah blah blah. So yeah, the Tren de Aragua was giving Venezuela a very bad reputation for a couple of years. Then on May, this is a parallel. Actually, we spoke about this yesterday. If Israel has any interest in Venezuela, well, the only thing I got is around May earlier this year, Maduro went and spoke against against Israel's war in Palestine. Spoke in support of the Palestinians, support of a state, against the war, and leave them alone. So 4 months later, end of August, September, Pam Bondi, the Attorney General of the United States, she comes out and says that we have now made a bounty for Nicolas Maduro for $50 million. And there was a lot of jokes all around that said, hey, he's in the Palacio de Miraflores, which is the White House of Venezuela, in Caracas, in the capital. By the way, I'm going to open the map in a little bit. so we can visually see, especially when we're talking about the current situation, because there's a really cool map I found where, well, I need to find it, where we have the vessels where are currently located is the current time is the time in the how do I say this, the most vessels have been deployed in the Caribbean for the first time ever. It's the time that there has been more war vessels in the Caribbean. Um, so never before, not even during the Cuban War, during the Cold War, never before has this amount of war vessels been moved from the American Navy, which is a big deal. And there's threats and then stuff, and we're gonna go through the Trump troll where he said he leaked the information um, that he was he was gonna declare war against Venezuela, and of course all he did was speak about how great he was. Oh, everything is going great. Oh, you're broke? No, you're not. Come on, next year will be better, and all that shit. So hilarious! It is like the biggest rock pool in the year. Actually, yeah, he started with the crypto rock pool with the Trump coin, where he made half of his current net worth he made from this rock pool at the beginning of the year. Billions from this shit coin. And now he's gonna finish the year with another rock pool just to get some attention and some eyes, because otherwise nobody gives a shit. So they were Pam Bondi declares a 50 million bucks bounty on Maduro's head. The jokes and the memes start coming out, and then about a month or two in October or something, the Cartel de Soles is declared a terrorist organization, which is vital, because once the once the Cartel de Soles is declared a terrorist organization, then Trump is allowed to just do things to them without repercussions, or without, like, bombing them without a trial and stuff like this. That's, you're a terrorist. This is what the Patriot Act of 2002, 1 or 2, brought in after the 9/11 attacks. This Patriot Act said that everybody who's a terrorist loses all the human rights. And so when they declare Cartel de Soles terrorist organization, then it's very obvious that they are planning just to attack them without any means of any kind of nuance, if this is true or not. They're not breaking any war crimes, in so to speak. Legally, they're allowed to do it now. So, yeah, they've been bombing several ships, several boats, as presuming that there were drugs in them. On the other part, there's absolutely zero evidence that any kind of substantial amount of drugs is coming, first of all, by sea, and second, by Venezuela. There's zero evidence that all of these little boats that they bombed carried drugs, or even if they did, were heading for the United States. These boats were small. You cannot travel all the way to the US with those boats. Like, you would need to fill the tank 1,000,000 times, and it would take you 2 weeks to get all the way. That's not the way. It's not what it is. So all the excuses for escalating are all lies. From the drug cartel thing, for the drug trafficking, they are using the emotions, I guess, from the Americans that are pissed about Venezuela because of the gangs. There was a Tren de Aragua member who killed a girl in Georgia, became super famous, and yeah, like, people start getting pissed about Venezuela. Like, Venezuelans start getting this reputation. So, that's not a good minority, basically, not good immigrants. And yeah, which is of course how you make these kind of things like they're doing today happen easier. Then after that, the latest news we have is more mobilization, more tanks from the side of Russia. They are apparently sending a couple nuclear submarines to keep things in touch, because Russia wants to keep this interest with Venezuela, of course, safe. So these are the two teams. So you have the US in the west with the EU, Israel, and yeah, some countries. Argentina is now on that team, and each country changes in Latin America. Mexico is now on that team, etc. And I guess Canada comes and goes. But it's basically the West against, the axis of evil group, right? China, Russia, North Korea, Iran, and Venezuela, Cuba, etc. Now Burkina Faso, we're going to talk about Burkina Faso probably either tomorrow or the day after, because I want to cover the Thailand-Cambodia thing that's going on. This is current and really hot, so I want to cover that, and Burkina Faso. So this weekend is going to be one and the other. We'll see which one. And yeah, I mean, mobilizations, and the last thing that they did, today Friday, at the beginning of the week, they seized an oil tanker that was, the direction of the oil tanker, everybody says something different. Some people say China, some people say Russia, some people say US or whatever. Like, it's because there is some trade. Venezuela is selling some oil to the US. It's not like there's zero trade, and also Maduro offered them everything. Like when the threat started, Maduro was like, dude, you can have all my resources, all my oil, whatever. He said no. Trump's only option to Maduro is resign, basically. There's no pardon, there's nothing. Take all the money you can and leave and fuck off. If you don't do it, we're gonna get there and we're gonna kill you, probably. So the latest news from yesterday or a couple days ago was that they made a oil blockade around the Caribbean, around the Venezuelan, which is a major escalation, complete blockade, especially for Russia and China, because now they're not going to get any oil, anything from Venezuela. And the troll was that yesterday Tucker Carlson goes on the Judge Napolitano pod, and let me show you Tucker. So he goes on this pod yesterday, and then he says that a member of Congress has told him that morning that Trump's address today at 8 p.m. Central is all gonna be about declaring war against Venezuela. So of course everybody tunes in, including me. Woke up at 4 in the morning just so I can watch it live, just to see Trump kiss his own ass for 20 minutes and saying how great things are, and why are you talking about inflation? There's no inflation, everything is great. You think you don't have money? Of course you do. And next year we're gonna do this great. Housing is coming next year, and we don't even have the plan, but we're planning to bring you some housing news. So the plan for the plan. He told us that they are planning to make a plan, which is great, very efficient. After a year, right? Oh, with housing, we never thought of that. So okay, cool. So man, it's just like, it's what a joke. It's a real joke. So I know I'm not the only disappointed one, but this Trump organization is just a joke. So yeah, this is the latest of this specific situation. Now let's move to the Propaganda and Co video. Let's check it out. Let's learn a little bit about Venezuela.
Well, actual warfare, many of its lessons have been applied to negotiations, diplomacy, and politics in general. Now, what if I told you that the U.S. military buildup off the coast of Venezuela is an implementation of this very lesson, a strategic performance of strength at a time when much of the world perceives the U.S. to be in decline? With the rise of China on the global stage, the failure of NATO to defeat Russia in Ukraine, the inability to destroy the Islamic Revolution in Iran, the challenge of defeating Hamas in the besieged Gaza Strip, and the rapid inflation of the dollar, the American empire has never appeared weaker, regardless of the fact that most of its military strength remains intact, and that its GDP is still the highest in in the world, the perception held by many is that the US is an empire in decline, and that its fall is only a matter of time. And this perception isn't just felt internationally, it's felt domestically by Americans as well. This overall feeling of decline is what led to the election of Donald Trump, who ran on a very simple message: make America great again. The message itself implies that America is no longer great, and the people desperately want it to be so.
We will take back our country and we will make America great again.
Ever since Trump's re-election a year ago, the US has been desperately trying to reassert itself all around the world. In his first 6 months in office, Trump joined Israel in bombing Iran, escalated tensions with Russia by continuing to arm Ukraine, sanctioned half of the planet, threatened to annex both Canada and Greenland, and renamed the Department of Defense to the War Department. All of this is connected to Trump's campaign promise to make America great again. But this is more than just propaganda for a domestic audience of idiot plebs. It's also an attempt to remind the world who's actually in charge. In its latest effort to flex its strength, the US has set its sights on its South American enemy, Venezuela. The US has amassed a massive naval fleet off Venezuela's coast and has implemented a no-fly zone over the country. All things point towards a major US attack on the country. So the implemented a
This is my fault. I posted myself. Okay, let's start again. I'm sorry. So we all know that this is not what make America great again means. So MAGA, we all know this term, very famous, amazing marketing strategy. However, Trump ran mostly on no new wars. And the biggest reason that I supported him and many others is because in his first term, he really was the first president in whatever amount of years that made no new wars. So he can, he's not only talking, he's showing the actions. However, in 1 year, he started two, plus his major allies bombed 7-8 countries on their behalf, like on their support, let's say, with their money. So I mean, that's not what MAGA means, bro. Not at all. Like I don't think anybody interpreted it that way. MAGA is bring industries back, so people can have jobs, balance the economy, lower the debt, balance the budget. Like the big beautiful bill is the most anti-MAGA thing that you can, dodge. Cut $2 trillion from the yearly budget. Where did that go? Nothing. They just installed Palantir and left. It's fucking hilarious. It's a joke. It's all a joke. They're painting us. Like we say in my country, they're painting us the face like clowns. There's a meme about it even, but we have the expression. All right, let's keep going.
Over the country. All things point towards a major US attack on the country. So the question currently on everyone's mind, is Trump actually serious about going to war with Venezuela? In this video, we will explore the US regime change plans for Venezuela and reveal what's at stake for the American empire. Because this isn't just another regime change operation by the United States. This is do or die for the American empire. Because the US finds itself in a rapidly evolving global economic system that it created but has already started leaving it behind. So this isn't business as usual for the military-industrial complex or the Pentagon. This is an operation that could determine the next world superpower for the next century. Whenever the US prepares for war or regime change, whether it's Iraq, Libya, Iran, and...
By the way, these guys in Propaganda and Co, they are pretty cool. I really recommend you guys to follow it, check them out, because I don't follow them. So yeah, they do pretty good journalism, and very fair and objective.
Now, Venezuela, the first strikes are always in the information space. The articles come before the airstrikes. Headlines propagandize the public, frame the narrative, and manufacture consent for whatever follows. To accurately predict which way things are going, I like to expose myself to all the propaganda. I've learned to read between the lines and see the intent behind the article. This is how I was able to predict the Israel-Iran war months before it happened. A great tool that helped me do that was Ground News, an app, whether it's an ownership strike is across for us. Search the targets with Ground US military news is the start in how an valuable tool. Now you have their support. My Ground Access. The U.S. is now threatening war. To understand why the U.S. is now threatening war with Venezuela, we first need to explore some basic history. Venezuela is a very unique country in South America. It carries the legacy of Simon Bolivar, the revolutionary who fought to liberate Latin America from European colonial rule. Bolivar did not just want independence for Venezuela. He wanted a united, sovereign South American continent, one strong enough to resist outside empires. That vision alone put Venezuela in ideological conflict with the United States, which has long viewed.
Yeah, some context about that, because this is what I learned in school. Simón Bolívar, not Simón Bolivar. Simón Bolívar was, of course, a patriot, freedom fighter, almost the most famous in the Latin American history. You have the Mexican, as was his, the Argentinian was Martí, the Mexican was also Martí. I don't remember. So yeah, each of them have their own. And Che Guevara was also part of that, kind of. But yeah, Simón Bolívar, he's born and raised in Venezuela from a family of criollos. Criollos are one of the 4 races that were existing in Venezuela back then. So there was the white Europeans, there was the slave Africans, there was the native Indians, indigenous people, and then after 100 years or something, these new criollos were created, which were like the locals. The mixtures, some of them were mixed between the blacks or the indigenous. Most of them, if they had some position of power, is because they were sons of white families, slave owners themselves. And then this guy, Simón Bolívar, family of criollos, started the revolution and started fighting for freedom. Once he freed Venezuela, he kept going down to Colombia, went to Ecuador, and like it's arguable if you like the Peruvians themselves think Simón Bolívar is not a freedom fighter from them, but he also went to Bolivia, even though Peru was more like on the Argentinian side. It's not like the borders like we see them now. It was a part of Peru what was freed by Bolivar, another part by Martí from Argentina. Bolivia was given his name Bolivia because of Simón Bolivar, so he reached La Paz, which is the Bolivian capital. And his plan was to have all these 5 countries, Venezuela, Colombia, Ecuador, Peru and Bolivia, to form one country and call it La Gran Colombia, the Great Colombia, in honor of Cristobal Colón, Christopher Columbus, who discovered the continent in 1492. So that's the ideology of Simón Bolívar, which of course never happened. Maybe he's gonna say if America actually intervene or put an obstacle there, kind of what's the word, like messed with it, you know what I mean, sabotage, that's the word. If it's sabotage this idea, or if there was actually an agenda, this honestly I don't know myself. Maybe he's gonna say about it, but that's the principal ideology of Simón Bolívar, the freedom fighter.
Viewed the Western Hemisphere as its sphere of influence under the Monroe Doctrine, a policy that essentially states this half of the planet belongs to us.
Let's watch that again.
With the United long enough to not just want independence for Venezuela.
Exactly.
He wanted a united, sovereign South American continent, one strong enough to resist outside empires. That vision alone put Venezuela in ideological conflict with the United States, which has long viewed the Western Hemisphere as its sphere of influence under the Monroe Doctrine, a policy that essentially states this half of the planet belongs to us. Now, combine that historical and political legacy with Venezuela's vast amount of natural resources. Venezuela has the largest proven oil reserves on Earth, more than Saudi Arabia, more than Iraq, more than the United States. We are talking about at least $18 trillion in underground wealth, and that is just their oil. This does not include their gas, gold, iron, or other natural resources that are mostly untapped. For most of the 20th century, Venezuelan oil was controlled by a small elite aligned with US corporations and
this I didn't know, that they were mostly untapped. It's very famous that Venezuela's main export is oil. It's also very famous that we do have a lot of gold and other resources, zinc and other stuff down in the Amazon, and natural gas, of course. I have heard reports that there's some illegal mafias over there exploiting those resources, illegally, of course. But yeah, Venezuela has gotten, imagine, there's 18 trillion untapped. Like, don't count what we have gotten out so far. So there has always been an unlimited amount of money when it comes to oil for Venezuela. So they were lazy to exploit the rest. We could also exploit tourism. There's a lot of countries that don't have any exports, that just have tourism, and they make enough money to survive through tourism. We could do the same without even exploiting the earth, which is not like I don't disagree with that. It's a nuance in it. Like, as long as we do it nice, it's fine. We can use the gold and the gas and even the carbon or whatever, coil. Like, there's a clean way to do that. Let's do it. So without fucking up the environment, So yeah, they've just been lazy. They have all the money in the world because of the oil, so they've been lazy to tap everything else. And now this is what happens when you get lazy. Like, you're only one resource, then I don't know if he's gonna talk about this, but some crisis happened some years ago. Oil went down and Venezuela went broke. Like, it's from one day to the next. During the day, I think during that time was the time when my mom had to sell the house, and she lost everything. She had to sell it for like $20,000 or something. And of course, she then had to find a new place to live. How do you buy something with 20,000? So yeah, let's move on.
Does not include their gas, gold, iron, or other natural resources that are mostly untapped. For most of the 20th century, Venezuelan oil was controlled by a small elite aligned with US corporations and Western interests. The profits flowed upward into foreign banks and private pockets, while the majority of Venezuelans remained in poverty. In the 1970s, Arab states imposed an oil embargo in response to Israel's aggression against Egypt. This triggered a global oil shortage that sent prices skyrocketing. The Venezuelan elite benefited tremendously from this crisis, but it wouldn't last long. The sudden rise in oil prices pushed major economies into a recession, which forced many of these countries to seek alternative energy sources. This shift led to what is known as the oil glut of the 1980s, where global oil supply far exceeded the demand, causing prices to collapse to record lows. Because the vast majority of Venezuela's national revenue came from these oil exports, and because most of these profits flowed into the hands of a collaborating elite, the country was completely unprepared for the fallout of the oil price crash. The enormous profits from oil exports in the 1970s convinced the political elite that Venezuela could take on massive loans without consequence. The assumption being that the oil revenue would always be there to pay them back. But when oil prices collapsed in the 1980s...
Like, whoever is gonna make a form of government that actually works have to fucking put some kind of threshold or limit when it comes to the leader asking for money. Because this is just ridiculous that you can ask for money that the next president is gonna have to pay off. That makes no sense. I mean, obviously you're gonna take 10%, 20%. I don't give a fuck. Give me the money now. It's not my problem. That's his problem. So it's just logistically not realistic that at some point somebody is not gonna just take unresponsible amount of money because it's not my problem now. And if the economy crashes under the next guy, they're not gonna go like, hey, this guy did it. Yeah, he's gonna take the heat. I'm gonna be in Hawaii drinking piña coladas, or in Cuba. So.
In the 80s, the Venezuelan government found itself in a predicament. They were now facing a severe budget deficit, runaway inflation, and a rapidly accelerating debt spiral where new loans had to be taken to pay off the old loans. At the time, Venezuela had international reserves of $300 million and a debt of $34 billion, with a poverty rate of 70%. It was a complete shit show. The Venezuelan government was trapped between the need to modernize their economy and pull their people out of poverty.
Those are not Venezuelan people. Get the fuck out of here. Get the fuck out of here, bro. These guys look more like Peruvians or Bolivians, or these look like people from the Andes. They could be Venezuelan people because we have some Andes region in the southwest. Let's check the map. I think it's two. Yeah, quick look at the map quickly. Quickly look. All right. So this is Venezuela. This is where I come from this town called Valencia, at the north of the city, from this area. And it's a town of about 2 million, a little bit less, maybe 1.8. And I only hang out with about 600,000 of those 2 million that live here in the north of the city. The center and the south of the city was all the ghetto, right, where the poor people live, or where it was dangerous and all that stuff. So we normally hang out on this area, and we were 20 minutes away from the beach. So that's my town. In the southwest, you have the Andes, the biggest mountain being the Bolivar Peak, having over 5,000 meters. For the gringos, like, figure it out in feet or whatever the fuck you do. And yeah, on all of this area, from this line here, all belongs to us, and all of this is Amazon jungle, which is about 1/3 of the country, maybe more actually. So all of this is Amazon jungle, and you have over here the Angel Falls, very famous, highest waterfalls in the world. And of course you have over here in the in the Andes, in the highest mountain, you have some snow. We have a desert here, which is very beautiful. I've been there. And so, beach, desert, mountains, jungle. Not mountains to ski. There's not enough snow for that level, but definitely you can see snow at the top. And yeah, a lot of Amazon jungle. So that's the country. Those people from the picture might come from Merida, from this town, which is where my brother went to university. So this town, Merida, very famous. I've been there a couple of times, and it's on the top of the Andes. I mean, it's on the mountain chain. It's a very high, I don't know how many thousand meters over the sea level, whatever. Also figure it out in feet or whatever you do. Cool. So that's the map. We'll come back to it if we need to. Let's keep playing. So these motherfuckers, as I said, from the Andes. Either, if they're not Venezuelan, Ecuador, Peru, Bolivians. Like, this is how these people look. And yeah, it's very funny, because going there to the Andes and seeing those people that are also Venezuelan but look absolutely nothing like you, actually they are more close, they look closer to the native Venezuelan indigenous than myself. I mean, I must be weird for them. I can imagine that they look at me like, you're not Venezuelan, motherfucker, you look like a fucking blonde gringo white boy. But yeah, it is what it is. You go there, they do things differently, they eat differently, they also speak Spanish but with a very interesting, funny accent and all that shit. So yeah, it's funny, the multiculturalism inside the country itself is also existent.
Also addressing the debt crisis before it could further spiral out of control. International lenders like the IMF and World Bank offered to step in with even more loans, but on the condition that the governments liberalize the economy and implement...
How generous is the international communities, the World Bank, the IMF. Thank you. I'm sure it was completely selfless, just to help, right? Wrong. Let me guess. They wanted all the power and all the money.
For to step in with even more loans, but on the condition that the governments liberalize the economy and implement austerity measures. Simply put, austerity is when governments slash spending by reducing or outright cutting budgets for public services and subsidies. This is done either to balance the budget or to pay off the interest-bearing loans owed to institutions like the IMF or World Bank. But austerity isn't just cutting public spending. Sometimes, in order to appease the banks that now effectively own the economy, nations are required to liberalize the economy, or in other words, give up state control control of key aspects of industry and hand them over to private corporations, usually with Western ownership and investment. Venezuela's president at the time, Carlos Andrés Pérez, won his second term by campaigning against austerity, promising to protect social programs and maintain subsidies. But once in office, he reversed course and implemented the very austerity measures he had condemned. Entire sectors of the economy were privatized, social spending was slashed, and most importantly, government fuel subsidies were completely dismantled. The most controversial part of the reform package was the removal.
The classic bait and switch, huh? Carlos Andres. The classic bait. Bro. Who knows someone else like this? Who knows someone that ran on something and then did the complete opposite? So let's put this together until now. So in the 70s, some crisis happened, an embargo of Saudi Arabia, oil prices soared. And of course, because oil prices soar, for everybody else, Venezuela was getting rich. For everybody else in the world, there was actually a huge emigration to Venezuela during those years. A lot of people coming for opportunities. Europe was still kind of destroyed and recovering from Second World War, and a lot of Italian, Portuguese, Spanish people from all over the world, where Venezuela was like the place for the opportunity. We were the American dream back then, let's say, in the 70s. 10 years later, because of everybody else, they cannot afford oil at such prices, and gas and electricity, everything that comes with it. Back then, we had even less natural energy than less. So everybody was relying on oil. And that's when it started, I guess, these other sources. Let's build some dams. Let's get some wind going, or solar panels maybe. I don't know if the technology was there then, but they started to look for other options of resources. And then oil prices crashed, and Venezuela went into crisis, and we needed money. We were in debt 34 billion when our reserves were 300 million. So complete broke, bankruptcy, crazy. Like 10 years before you were number one in the world. How bad do you have to manage it? Even if oil prices go down, dude, take advantage of the moment when you are rich to, split your. Am I a fucking genius? I don't think so. I think I'm a normal person that thinks logically. Like, bro, you're doing great now only because of oil. How about what if oil crashes? We're fucked. Let's exploit the gold. Let's exploit the tourism. We're doing great. We have good reputation. Everybody's coming. Less tariffs or whatever. International businesses come here, build your business in Venezuela. Your Latin American department for your business, for Apple, Google, whatever, build it in Caracas. Build it here, and we'll give you whatever. So, I mean, Apple, Google of those days. We didn't have internet in the 70s, but you know what I mean. Coca-Cola, whoever, like, huge. You want to be the international Coca-Cola Latin American representative, or South America? Here we are, right in the Caribbean. You can deliver all your Coca-Colas with boat. Is it that difficult? Don't these people do this for a living? Do I have to, a fucking podcaster, whoever, has to come and just break this down in logical, common sense things? I don't think I'm a fucking genius. But dude, you were the richest country in the world, and then 10 years later you're broke as shit. And then you have to sell your soul to survive, basically, which is what they did. Carlos Andrés Pérez, during that controversy, Carlos Andrés Pérez ran saying that no, we won't do this. The oil's gonna stay Venezuelan. And then he did the classic bait and switch and said, fuck you guys. America, who was president in the 80s? Who was president in the 80s? Was it fucking Reagan, I guess? Reagan or something here. Nice business. And then he betrayed the Venezuelan people, as politicians do. What else is new, right?
Of these gasoline subsidies that had kept domestic fuel prices far below international rates and even below production cost. To understand how drastic this was, you need a little bit of context. In oil-rich countries like Iran and Venezuela, government subsidies push gasoline prices to extremely low levels. For example, in Venezuela today, a gallon of gas costs just 8 cents. That's right, 8 cents. Meanwhile, where I live in Florida, that same gallon
I
costs
spoke about
at
that,
least
right?
$2.85, which is 35 times more expensive.
Yeah.
Now,
So
this
we
sounds
fill the
wonderful
tank with
until you
about
realize that the
$3.
average salary per month in Venezuela is just $8. So gasoline has to be that cheap. Otherwise, people...
That's what my mom gets for pension. This $8, 8, 10, maybe, I don't know.
Can't get around and economy cannot function. So in a country where 70% of the population at the time was already living in poverty, the removal of these energy subsidies didn't just raise prices. It effectively paralyzed the poor and pushed an entire population to the brink. This sparked a nationwide uprising known as El Caracazo, where the government responded by massacring protesters in the streets for rejecting US-backed austerity. The political order that had governed Venezuela for decades had literally collapsed in legitimacy overnight. Born out of this chaos was a passionate military officer turned politician, Hugo Chavez. Chavez didn't come to power offering small reforms. He came offering revolution. He was Simon Bolivar reincarnated, and his fiery, energetic, passionate vision for Venezuela brought him to power. One of the first things he did was nationalize the oil industry, not in name, but in practice, forcing the state oil company PDVSA to stop operating like a private corporation serving Western energy markets and instead redistribute oil wealth to the Venezuelan people through healthcare, housing, education, and food programs. He called it the Bolivarian Revolution, explicitly linking his movement to Bolivar's dream of a sovereign, united, independent Latin America. Like Bolivar...
And guess what? Did any of that happen? Absolutely not. And let me correct this guy a little bit, because he's simplifying things when he said that he came as Bolivar reincarnated and promising to nationalize everything. And he's kind of, I don't think he said it, but he kind of implies that everybody supported that, and that's not true. So he came promising money to the poor people. He came saying like his campaign ran on nobody cares about the poor people. We, like all of the previous presidents, sold out, like Carlos Andres and all this. The next one was Rafael Caldera. He was more like Joe Biden. He was the Joe Biden of the Venezuelan history, basically a corpse. So also sold, everybody sold. So this guy comes as some sort of a Trump version of the communist side, of the left, and the poor people bought it because they offer them money, and they gave them a lot of money at the beginning to buy their votes, but everybody, middle class, big portion, were completely against. They were actually supporting Salas Romer. What was his first name? I was 14 years old, so Enrique Salas Romer, maybe, I don't remember his first name. So they were supporting Salas Romer, who was actually the opposition candidate, or the candidate against Chavez, and he was the governor of my state, of the state where the capital was Valencia. The state is called Carabobo. He was the governor then, and in 1999, the elections, it was Chavez against Salas Romer, and Chavez won, obviously, and since then the rest is history. He broke all the promises. He started taking more power. He had promised that he would never extend more than 2. He would stay president only 2 times, that he would never prolong. He lied about that. He lied about everything, basically. And everything went to shit.
Bolivar before him, Chavez didn't just want to liberate Venezuela from United States control. He wanted to free all of South America from the global neoliberal economic order. And that is how and why the conflict between the US and Venezuela became inevitable. Because when a nation with the largest oil reserves on Earth declares that its resources belong to its own people, not to Exxon, not to Chevron, not to the IMF, the World Bank, or Washington, that's not just disobedience. That is a direct threat to the American imperial strategy in the Western Hemisphere, a threat to the petrodollar, a threat to US geopolitical dominance, a threat to a 200-year-old doctrine that says Latin America must remain subordinate. And that, not democracy, not human rights, not corruption, not drugs, is why the United States has spent the last 2 decades trying to overthrow the government of Venezuela. Now, while it's true that the United States wants to look strong in the face of perceived weakness, this aggression...
I mean, when he said that they have spent 2 decades trying to overthrow them, that's not really true. I mean, yes, in the sense that there's evidence of the CIA having something to do with this 2001 national strike, which was basically a coup against Chavez, which actually succeeded for a couple of days. I remember watching on TV, and again, I don't know if my compatriots are just fucking retarded as fuck, but I remember being 15 years old and watching that when he fell, 17 or something, when Chavez went down. Nobody knew even if he was alive or dead. He was maybe in some island, something, and then they said, okay, we have now power, And what Chavez has done in those 2 years, he changed the name of the country officially from República de Venezuela to República Bolivariana. He changed the logo of the country because the logo had a horse facing right and he wanted the horse facing left. And then he added 1 star. The flag originally had 7 stars and he added an 8th star. So he changed basically everything, like all of the symbols that made us Venezuelans, let's say. And immediately when he fell for a couple of days, the opposition came up and saying that without votes, because Chavez did all of that, at least he did them legally. Yeah, the votes, like the elections were fake and all that shit, but at least he had them and he pretended to go through the steps. But these guys just went into power and then that night said Chavez is down, everything is back to normal, we're gonna change the name, change the flag, and I'm like, that's illegal, man, you cannot fucking do that. And of course, a couple days later after, Chavez came back and everything went back to normal. So it was a 2-day success, 3-day success coup. And yeah, that's what happened in 2001. And then I don't think they have done anything else until they are doing this now. We have had manifestations and stuff every 5 years. There's some fake elections that they obviously steal, and every 5 years people go to the street and complain, and then for 2 months there's some mess and stuff, some people die, and then everything goes back to normal. But haven't seen any evidence that the CIA or America is involved in that. Maybe they're running some groups or something, but the US has been active, from my evidence, was in 2001 and then again in 2025. So yes, for 20 years, but only twice. So I don't know if that counts. Like
towards
that.
Venezuela isn't just performative propaganda. The real reason Washington has now rapidly accelerated its regime change plans for Venezuela is because the global economic order is shifting fast. For the last 80 years,
true.
The United States has dominated the world through 2 main pillars: the dollar and control of global energy, primarily oil and gas. These 2 things are inseparable. You see, the dollar is strong because oil has exclusively been priced and traded in dollars globally. This is known as the petrodollar system. But that system has slowly been unraveling over the last few years. Countries like China, Russia, Iran, Brazil, South Africa, basically the BRICS nations, are actively building an alternative global financial system, one that does not rely on the US dollar in order to trade for commodities like oil and gas. China has already been signing oil trade deals in their own currency, the yuan. For example, just a few months ago in September, Saudi Arabia and China settled an oil transaction in the digital yuan. Even India has been purchasing Russian oil despite the sanctions using the Chinese yuan. To many, this is the beginning of the end of the dollar's hegemony. So the United States now has one urgent strategic priority: re-establish control over the world's largest remaining oil reserves in order to prevent more sales in non-dollar currencies. Those reserves are, guess where? Iran and Venezuela. Trillions of dollars of oil, enough to determine the future of global energy pricing, determine the world's reserve currency, and control over the Chinese economy, sits under governments that are not aligned with Washington. Even worse, Venezuela has been strengthening economic ties with China, Russia, and Iran, the 3 main challengers to US hegemony. Beijing has already invested heavily in Venezuelan infrastructure and oil extraction operations to the tune of $67 billion. Russia provides military equipment and intelligence support, and Iran advises Venezuela on how to bypass sanctions and protect against refinery sabotage. So from the perspective of the US
So they are helping each other, like the Axis. They are helping each other with some training, some intelligence, and some weapons, I guess. And yeah, obviously, we didn't obviously, yeah, this is all true what the guy's saying. It all makes sense. I didn't think about it that way, but it does make sense that they want to keep control, because BRICS is gonna take over. There's just not I mean, they can delay it and stuff, but like the whole world, when it comes to the population, not the leaders, not the current leaders of the West. The Western world wants to go back to a gold standard. Everybody figured out that this printing of money, it's not working. This is not the way that we can live. It's only been 50 years and the world is in $300 trillion in debt or some crazy. It's impossible. We cannot live like this. So the common person is waking up that the gold standard is the real way to do business and to actually have a society that could prosper in the future. So countries slowly are gonna separate from that, and if America would be open to go back to the gold standard with the US dollar, then maybe. But they're not willing to do that. So they say there's no compromise. It's either what we say or nothing. It's not like, hey, but what if we bring you, like, let's make a, no. Only one side, only they have to benefit. They are the only ones in power. And yeah, dude, who takes that shit? It's crazy.
Security establishment, Venezuela had crossed from disobedient to strategically dangerous, and time was quickly running out to
Maria
prevent them
Corina.
from joining
I didn't
BRIC.
speak about that. Yeah, there has been, of course, opposition freedom fighters. Let's say I would consider them freedom fighters because I think it's a dictatorship. What's happening now? It's not democratic. Whether it's communism or not, if you support communism and you think everything is going great, then let the people decide. You don't have to fake the elections. You know, this is the thing. They show me that it works. But if you have to fake the elections, force people to not be ruled by what they want, then that's a dictatorship. And that's why I don't support it. That's why I call the opposition freedom fighters. Like Juan Guaidó, who was, there was Leopoldo Lopez before that. He was his political prisoner. I think he's been in prison for like 20 years or something. Probably not, like 10 years or something crazy. Then there was Juan Guaidó, who in theory won last year and who is the recognized president of Venezuela according to the US. He's exiled. I think he's in Miami. And now we have Maria Corina, who is obviously the new person to take the throne, who was ridiculously awarded this Nobel Prize for no reason, no logical reason, except just the green light or just to make a statue of her. Like, this is the next Venezuelan freedom fighter, this strong, independent woman, of course, including the woke ideology there, that women can do this, women can do what no other man has done or whatever. So yeah, this is what we're gonna see in a little bit. They're gonna talk about showing this is Maria Corina. She obviously aligns with America. She obviously aligns with Israel. She obviously supports the war in Palestine. So yeah, it's people are between a rock and a hard place, and this is for me very difficult to decide, because on one side I hate communism and I would like it to come down to for the people to be free, but this is not the way to do it, bro. So I don't know. That's why I don't support. In this case, I've always been against Maduro, but now the America is doing it this way. It's not like I support America to do it. I'm just now in Switzerland, and let's see what happens.
BRICS. Because if Venezuela, China, and the entire BRICS bloc began to finalize oil trade outside of the dollar system, it would have undermined the petrodollar, weakened U.S. global financial power, accelerated the shift.
Oh yeah, and if Venezuela joins BRICS, that's curtains, bro. Curtains.
Multipolar world, and removed the economic basis of the US empire itself. So again, this is not about democracy, corruption, or even drug trafficking. This is about preventing global power from changing hands. So when the US positions its navy outside Venezuela today, it's not simply flexing for its domestic audience of idiot plebs. It is defending the core operating system of the American empire.
That's a lot
Whoever
of ships.
controls Venezuelan oil in the next decade will have leverage in this
That's
new
not the
global
map I saw,
economic
by the
order
way. I saw
that is
another
rapidly
one.
taking shape. That is why war is suddenly on the table.
How long have we been streaming so far?
There have been
1 and
many
6.
opposition figures over the years that
Here we go. So 1 hour and 6 now. We can go a little bit longer. We still have a couple things to talk about.
There have been many opposition figures over the years that the US has officially recognized as Venezuela's legitimate leadership. The most recent is Maria Corina Machado, who has been going viral recently, not only because she very controversially won the Nobel Peace Prize for her stated work to transition Venezuela from a dictatorship to a democracy, but also for her viral clips where she
hasn't
promises
done
to
shit.
give Venezuelan resources to the United States.
We will open Venezuela for foreign investment. I am talking about a $1.7 trillion opportunity, not only in oil and gas, which is huge, and you know that the opportunities, because we will open all upstream, middle stream, downstream to all companies, but also in mining, in gold.
We will open Venezuelans' legs for everybody who's ready to come and exploit it. Whatever, my oil is yours as long as you pay. My resources are yours as long as you pay. My political support, everything is yours as long as you pay. I want Venezuela to become whorish. Make Venezuela whorish again. Make us a whore. Let's open our legs to the American empire and give them everything that they want. I promise you this. So please take Maduro out of power so all of this can happen and we can be exploited again. Thank you, Maria Corina.
In infrastructure, power, we will open markets, we will have security for foreign investment, and a transparent, massive privatization program that is waiting for you.
Do you support?
I don't think that's a priority. Security. You see, this is how you sell. This is how you sell yourself as a leader of a country to foreign people. There's nothing there about improving the life of locals. We will help foreign companies to come. How about helping the local person who opened the business, and make them maybe become the market, try to nationalize the market a little bit. This is the extremes bother me, because the extreme of communism is close yourself to everybody. The extreme of the other side is open yourself to everybody and forget your local people. They are both wrong. The fucking gray area, bro. God damn it.
U.S. military strikes on the territory of Venezuela as part of what you call a process.
I believe that the increase in pressure and the escalation that's taking place is the only way to force Maduro to understand that it's time to go.
Of course, you support it.
She's a sellout, which essentially confirms what this entire conflict is about.
You see why I told you I haven't seen this video before, and I told you this guy is fucking based, and they're very objective. And you see, she's a fucking sellout, dude. What's his name? I don't know what his name is. Support, bro. Based as fuck.
Oil, money, the dollar, China, the future of the U.S. empire. Now, to be clear, the U.S. isn't just suddenly attempting regime change in Venezuela. They've actually been trying for the last 20 years. Shortly after Hugo Chavez took power, Washington began imposing sanctions on Venezuela, and those sanctions have been gradually intensified ever since. The sanctions, combined with poor economic policies by the Venezuelans themselves, has pushed the country into a deep crisis. Hyperinflation, violent riots, and multiple coup attempts. After decades of sanctions and covert meddling, the U.S. now plans to turn up the heat to its most extreme point. Just like they did with Iran, the U.S. will test the strength of the Venezuelan regime by assassinating key figures and delivering strikes on infrastructure. The United States recently deployed its largest and newest aircraft carrier, the USS Gerald R. Ford, which is a carrier capable of launching and supporting over 75 aircraft on its own. And with the recent order to vacate the skies over Venezuela, Trump has already set the stage for aerial strikes deep inside the country. Only time will tell if Venezuela can survive the showdown, but one thing is certain: the United States is very serious, and it will continue to escalate as far as it needs to in order to overthrow the Venezuelan government. So what do you think? Let me know in the comment section. Before you go, I want to give a very special shout out to the sponsor of this video, Ground News. So click the link and let's continue to slice through the propaganda together. groundnews.com.
Okay, so we didn't learn much after that. We know what's gonna happen.
Which is a carrier capable of launching and supporting over 75 aircraft on its own. And with the recent order to vacate the skies over Venezuela, Trump has already
they block air travel. Legit, I forgot about that.
Set the stage for aerial strikes deep inside the country. Only time will tell if Venezuela can survive the showdown, but one thing is certain: the United States is very serious, and it will continue to escalate as far as it needs.
So McGregor, he was yesterday with who? He was yesterday with who did I see him? It wasn't this one. Not Ukraine. Oh man, who was the podcast? I watched so much podcast. Exactly, with Jackson Hinkle. Correct.
Venezuela, as you know, is this enormous country.
So let me see if I can bring it to. This I did watch, so let me see if I can bring it to. This is the last current
business. Anybody who's been to Asia has figured that out. That's what they're about. And in the world today, we need.
Okay, he's talking about China. He speaks a lot about how people are preferring more doing relationship with China over the America because China is looking for business. They don't want to oppress anyone and steal everything. They are more the gray area right now in the world, ironically. So China is coming, offering all of the machines and all of the technology people, poor countries need to exploit their ground. And instead of bribing the president to allow it so they can steal everything, they are just saying to the president, let us exploit and you get 60%. You and your country get 60% of this, we get the rest, everybody's happy, blah, 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 blah. Dude, What's the problem? I don't really see a problem about this. And what you don't want to invade my country and bomb me? Really? No. You just want to sign here and let's make some money. Look. Oh my God. Crazy, right? So let's see this. He's talking about that, how the world is now choosing to make deals with China. We're gonna talk about Burkina Faso this weekend, and I think we're gonna see a good example there. How China came into Burkina Faso and just offered them deals. And there's also something very controversial about what they're doing in the Republic of Congo, exploiting the cobalt using basically slave work. So obviously that's fucked up. They shouldn't be like that. Those terms should improve. There's a little bit of, we have some horrible examples, we have some examples that are at least improving. But I would say that at least we have at least someone in the field now who's willing to sign at the dotted line, and that's it. We have at least someone who doesn't want to make an international empire like the West does. So this brings some balance into the playing ground, because now if America doesn't accept this, they're just gonna be excluded of the conversation sooner or later. Nobody wants to deal with a bully. So either you stop being a bully and come to the table, or you're gonna get cited by everybody. Nobody likes that. Who does?
The left wants to throw itself in front of the onrushing train,
especially if they have better options, right? So okay, so I think we covered this. So anyway, so that's it. Now we go to the last, which is why the war. What I think this kid from Propaganda today, he gave a really good argument. I think it's a big part of the reason why the war. I always wonder why now, because Trump had 4 years to do it. I think during that time, when did Chavez died? I think it was no, it was before. I think it was before Trump. Yeah, Trump is 2016. So he had the first term to do it. He didn't do shit. Then there was several problems, political problems, and there's been like a non-stop passive civil war on ice, kind of. We had a civil war already in 2001. That's how everything happened. And then since then, he has been a couple of months where, people get aroused, they go out, they do some manifestations or whatever. And then some people die, nothing happens. So they had the chance then. So why now? Yeah, the power hegemony is shifting. I get all that. It's the timing. Besides that, I mean, you can entertain 1% this Israel thing because it's funny. And then I guess, World War III would be my argument, that they want to secure all of this, not only for the power hegemony, but again, to have the highest oil resources in the world. You're getting ready for World War III. This is what we're hearing from Europe. The UK and France are saying to their citizens, get ready for your children to die for Finland or Poland when Putin invades or whatever. And we know Taiwan is an issue. We know North Korea, South Korea is an issue. Small things like Cambodia and Thailand. It's a political thing. We're gonna talk about it tomorrow. But Cambodia was supposed, like, people would think that Thailand is the West and Cambodia is the Axis, that those are the two teams fighting, but it's not. Actually, Thailand has huge relationships with China right now, and it all started when America landed in Cambodia, and this is when the problem started. We're gonna talk about it more in deep, probably tomorrow, and we'll leave Burkina Faso for Sunday. But yeah, and so that would be my guesses. World War III getting ready. Probably it's a little bit of everything. What this guy says from Propaganda and Co. makes a lot of sense. And yeah, make your own conclusions. Again, I keep forgetting. I should do this like every 30 minutes. Comment below what you think. Why is Trump? Why the sudden hard on for Venezuela? Why do you want my land, bro? Why are you killing my people, bro? Why, bro? Dude, stop. There's also news or rumors or something that preparing for bomb And the Colonel McGregor, his argument was, yeah, you can fly. Yeah, your airplanes are cooler than ours, 100%. You can fly and bomb things. Land invasion is gonna be a problem. Apparently, he was saying that there's some Colombian and Brazilian militant groups, guerrillas basically, who are, you know, don't have a problem coming into Venezuela and helping killing Americans, and that's why it can become a Pearl Harbor, Vietnam in some ways. Because yeah, the cities are normal cities, but there's a lot of empty land. It's a huge country, 3 times bigger than Germany, 1 million square meters, 1 million square kilometers. Sorry, again, gringos, do your own math, and anything can happen. I am of the side that we have no chance. I am of the side that America could take it in a minute. However, I haven't been there in years. I don't know how the military is doing. I don't know any of that. So Cuba is helping. They have really good intelligence. So even though they are kind of useless anywhere else, they have good intelligence. Russia is helping with weapons. Iran is helping with intelligence. China hasn't said anything yet, but they are like arguably number 2 in the world, let's say, after the US. So let's see what happens. And comment below, give me your opinion, what's gonna happen. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, share with your friends, and I hope you like the content. And it's fun doing this shit. I just need to be disciplined about it and do it as early as possible, because then I get lazy as fuck. Alright everybody, gringos, gringas, beaners, beanerettes. When I say gringos, by the way, there's no race. Americans are all gringos. The whiteys and whitettes, the negros and no negrettes, everybody, all gringos, welcome. Latinos, beaners, beanerettes, everybody welcome. Europeans, Australians, whoever else, everybody welcome. And yeah, I'll see you tomorrow again for more news updates. Peace.